Back on March 24th of this year, then presidential candidate Rick Santorum won Louisiana. He won the Louisiana state Republican primary. Rick Santorum won with 49% of the vote. Mitt Romney got 27%, Newt Gingrich 16%, Ron Paul 6%. The great state of Louisiana will send 46 delegates to the Republican convention in Tampa this summer. But even though Ron Paul came in dead last in Louisiana, even though he came in 4th out of 4 in Louisiana, when Louisiana sends its delegates to the convention in Tampa this summer, Louisiana will retroactively become a dead heat between him and Mitt Romney. It's looking like right now maybe 19 delegates for Mitt Romney and 17 for Ron Paul. Rick Santorum, who's now out of the race, will still have the remaining 10 that he got that March night. But Ron Paul supporters overwhelmingly dominated the Louisiana caucuses this past weekend. Almost 3/4 of the Republicans elected at the caucuses in Louisiana say they support Ron Paul for president. Also this weekend, there was chaos at the Republican caucuses in the great state of Massachusetts. Less than half of Mitt Romney's delegates were elected to represent him at the convention. Voters instead chose Ron Paul delegates. They even rejected Mr. Romney's former lieutenant governor from his time as governor of the state. She lost as a delegate, so Ron Paul delegates could win. Also this weekend, Ron Paul supporters in the great state of Alaska quite literally took over the state party's convention. A Ron Paul guy won the state party chairmanship. The Paul supporters were so fired up in Alaska, they were just so loud that Senator Lisa Murkowski, who's a Mitt Romney supporter, hear that? Could not deliver her planned speech in the room. Neither could her guest, Wyoming Senator John Barrasso. The crowd is chanting, Ron Paul, Ron Paul, Ron Paul, and nobody else is getting a word in edgewise. As a result of all this, a Ron Paul supporter won the election for state Republican Party chairman. He beat out the guy backed by the current Alaska chairman, who's had the job for over a decade. Alaska's going to end up sending 6 Ron Paul delegates to the Republican National Convention in Tampa. We've seen this Ron Paul plot before. I mean, do you remember the Iowa Republican caucuses this year? First, they said that Mitt Romney won it, but then it turned out that no, that wasn't right. Then they tried to say it was a tie. Then Rick Santorum was declared the winner. But then it turned out none of it actually mattered in a practical sense because the Iowa caucuses did not allocate a single delegate. A state Republican Party committee does that. A state Republican Party committee picks the delegates who go to the Republican convention. And last month, Ron Paul supporters took over that committee, guaranteeing Ron Paul at least half of Iowa's 28 delegates. So in the end, forget all that nonsense. Ron Paul won Iowa. And, oh, by the way, a Ron Paul supporter now chairs the Iowa Republican Party as well. Ron Paul supporters have used state party rules and conventions and processes to secure victories large and small that will have a practical effect on the Republican Party. If not the nominating process for president this year, maybe the convention itself. Ron Paul's strategy hasn't been to convert non-believers or to swing Romney delegates over to his side. The Ron Paul strategy has been to get his own supporters inside, to get them inside the process. And we cannot say we didn't see this coming.
How do you, from the outside, make positive change as your party's nominee and as president, if that's the will of the people? Next year being that outside.
Have the outside become the inside. We don't win over the insiders by becoming like an insider. We win the inside over by making the outsiders become more appropriate.
Making the outsiders become more appropriate, like making them take over the state parties. In addition to those coups this weekend and before in Louisiana and in Massachusetts and in Alaska and in Iowa, Ron Paul has won more than half the delegates in Minnesota and in Washington state. So, yes, Ron Paul won Minnesota and Washington state. He's got his eyes on Maine, on Missouri and Nevada as well. He is scheduled to speak at the Nevada Republican State Convention this weekend. If Ron Paul wins a majority of delegates in 5 states, his name will officially be entered in nomination at the Republican National Convention in Tampa. And there will be a lot of Republican Ron Paul delegates there to cheer or do something when that happens. And then what? The Republicans fight it out like gladiators at the Coliseum? I love this stuff.